As I take the mic off the thing.
Anytime. That's fine. I can wait 2 minutes. Oh my! After this, I'm gonna wait for 2 weeks. I haven't seen my wife in 2 weeks, so I'm gonna go home and see her for. Go home.
Okay, we're ready to go again. Kevin McGinnis is our next speaker. You heard from Kevin yesterday. And so if you don't know Kevin, how many of you knew Kevin? Good. For the rest of you, Kevin's a guy you want to get to know, especially if you're from the States. He's a real watchdog for us and our major proponent in many different areas, including community paramedicine and communications. So Kevin's going to give us a snapshot of FirstNet and its companions around the world.
Thank you, Gary. Good afternoon, and we propel ourselves out to the end of the day. And hopefully this will stimulate you a bit. I hope it stimulates you as much as it stimulates me and has for about 14 years now. I'm going to talk about FirstNet and talk about nationwide public safety broadband networks a bit around the world. I truly believe that particularly FirstNet in the United States, because I know whereof I speak, but I assume around the world as well, that this capability is going to change the way we practice EMS fundamentally, because we will be situationally aware, we'll be able to talk.
Understand me? Given the nature of your injuries, we'd like you to speak to a specialist on video. Is that all right?
I'm Dr. Greer. There are a few questions I'd like to ask you.
In the time that I've been doing public safety communications and kind of been one of the EMS community's representatives at the various public safety communications venues, we've seen studies come and go about the need for improved EMS communications. And it's true. There's so much technology out there in hospitals and health facilities and elsewise that we could bring to the benefit of our patients if only we could unlock them into our world of mobility. And the problem that we've got is that for all the good things that we've become in the last 40 or 50 years in terms of our capabilities in the field, we still communicate the way we did in the 70s, which is in the United States, VHF or UHF communications, we've gone to 800, 700 narrowband, simple cell phones in Europe and Asia, Tetra. And when it comes to unlocking those technologies which require shoving a whole lot of data down a pipe, those communications networks we rely on today won't cut it. Why? Because you're looking at sending for vital signs transmission, a complex multi-vital signs transmission, 76 kilobytes per second. Basic video, somewhere in the neighborhood of 700 kilobytes to a megabyte per second. And today's radio systems send it at 9.6 kilobytes per second. That's slower than dial-up internet access 20 years ago. That's our problem. Now, EMS has bravely taken the step into using commercial wireless to address some of these broadband needs. Problem with that is, when you really need it, it won't be there. Because in commercial wireless, public safety has no priority. You're at that crash on the interstate, all those people that are recording it and sending it to YouTube or calling their folks or sending pictures or texting are competing with you for broadband network. And if you want to send something to the hospital, it's probably not going to get through. You're probably not even get to the tower. And the network that it's built on is commercial grade, which is good. But we've seen what happens to commercial wireless in earthquakes and hurricanes and other things. There's some things that everything's going to break in, but there's a lot that they don't need to. Funny thing happened in 2006 or thereabouts. Firefighters, paramedics, and cops in the United States agreed on something. Pretty remarkable, actually. And what it was that they agreed on, or their associations representing them agreed on, was that cop, paramedic, the firefighter should have at least as much communications and computational ability in their left hand as their 13-year-old kids. And so we started a process, put together something called the Public Safety Alliance, which was a group of public safety entities and also state and local governmental entities. And we started going to Washington, D.C., and we spent 4 years going to the Hill. It was not a fun venture, but it was productive, because in 2017 now, I can say that we not only have this that we want to look forward to, but we have FirstNet. And what it was in 2012 that happened, the law was passed creating the First Responder Network Authority, or FirstNet. It created as an independent authority within the Department of Commerce, so it's a federal agency. It has a board that governs it. I'm the EMS guy on the board, have been for 5 years. It has a 40-member Public Safety Advisory Committee, which are from public safety associations for the most part. We were given $7 billion, that's with a B, which certainly would help your and my household budget a lot, but it's not enough to build a broadband network with. And we were given beachfront property in 700 megahertz bandwidth. And it looks like something like this. And you'll see that we have some pretty illustrious neighbors like Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, and Sprint up in the same area of this beachfront property. The way the network works, there are 3 basic components. There's the core, the nationwide core that connects everything across the nation, allows me to send ambulances from Maine to 4 states away to help out in a hurricane and have my folks hop out of the ambulance with their network in hand and all their apps in hand and all their connections back home to their data in hand, and also to talk to everybody that they need to deal with, because we'll have common apps channel. Then there are devices and service on the bottom. That's the smartphones, the tablets, the tough books, the whatevers you want to actually route this nationwide network through and to use as your tools of the day. In the middle is something called the radio access network, which are basically cell towers for the terrestrial system in the state, which connect the devices and the nationwide network. There are 3 parts to the system, and something that's really important to emphasize is FirstNet has a rural mandate. Commercial wireless does not have a rural mandate. Where does commercial wireless not appear? In rural areas where there are no customers. Well, we can't get away with that at FirstNet because we do have customers out there, and there are patients. And so we will have not only the terrestrial systems of cell towers and microwave, we will have mobile satellite systems, and we will have deployable systems. And they will be used according to state plans that have been developed to hopefully cover the better part of most states, at least the better part of 99% of the population. Furthermore, in our history, this last March, we were able to come to the end of an award-winning RFP process. And it really was a very thorough process and gave a contract as our partner to a team led by AT&T, which also involves Motorola, Inmarsat, and some other large companies that you might recognize. And with that, what AT&T brought to the table for us was the ability to speed up our project. We are now 2 years ahead of schedule and under budget. Not many federal projects can talk that way. But that's also a double-edged sword because we are 2 years ahead of schedule, so we have a system, a network that we're going to be able to use very soon, but we're 2 years ahead of where we plan to be, and so we're having to play through that. But you know, what it ends up boiling down to is for agency chiefs, it's going to amount to making a decision of continuing with the service that you now have, commercial wireless, or going with AT&T as overseen by FirstNet. And I think it's going to be a very easy decision for chiefs to make. With this new public-private partnership, FirstNet is the overseer. We are representing public safety. We are by and for public safety and of public safety, and our job is to oversee the network and make sure that our operator, AT&T, is doing what it had agreed to do contractually for us. There are no other operations like that I'm aware of in the world today. AT&T did bring to the table $40 billion to invest, which is now, with our $7 billion, enough to build a network. They also said, here's what we're going to do for you. Day one of this RFP, we will be willing to turn on all of our bandwidth, the whole AT&T bandwidth, not the little pieces that you may see in your state, but the whole bandwidth. And we will give public safety priority, and by the end of 2017, we will give them preemption, which means that when you get on that interstate crash, you go to the head of the line. And if it's too jammed up, if people can't even hit the tower because it's too jammed up, people get preempted and get kicked off or get kicked down to another network, and you go through. And so you're going to have pretty much endless bandwidth with priority. That will last. They're going to do that instead of simply building out the 20 megahertz of bandwidth that we were given by Congress. If we were just going to do that, it would take us that additional 2 years. But we're going to be able to go out right now with AT&T and then build out our bandwidth at our own leisure, which is not something we're being leisurely about. There is a Public Safety Advisory Committee with 40 public safety and governmental agencies represented on it who are looking over FirstNet's shoulder and advising FirstNet as FirstNet looks over AT&T's shoulder and makes sure they're doing what we said we'd do. We've spent 3 years now, 4 years, consulting with states, with EMS providers, EMS chiefs, fire, police, and others about constructing a state plan specifically for their state and territory. What we plan to deliver, as I said, 99% of Americans. We covered post a governor's decision. I'll talk about that. Public safety pricing. At this point, everything I've seen personally has been either at or below public safety offerings by commercial wireless. As I said, we'll have priority and preemption by the end of 2017, priority now. They're providing us with 72 deployables to ration around the states and have been very helpful in creating the state plans and making them work. I can talk about Maine. I was able 2 weeks ago to sit in on a meeting with AT&T and the local FirstNet folks, and I really said nothing except express my skepticism about my AT&T device, which I've been taking around Maine and didn't have wasn't really impressed with that as opposed to my Verizon device. And they showed me what they were going to do in the first year. They're turning on all of the Verizon towers that are out there and making them AT&T towers as well. And long story short, I was very happy to watch them in this one session move towers and say, yeah, we can move that tower. If you want it over there, that's fine, go ahead. And the coverage that Maine is going to get is great. And I'm assuming that the experience in other states is going to be similar. As I said, there were state plans created over the last 3 years. Those plans were put on governors' desks in the middle of September. By law, the law that created us, a decision has to be made, a decision had to be given to the governor, a choice, to either opt in or opt out of FirstNet. And all that means is if you opt in, you allow FirstNet to build out your radio access network and maintain it and improve it for 25 years. If you opt out, the state does that. Doesn't sound to you probably like a hard choice. But there are some states that are really looking at it hard and seeing if they want to get into that business. So today, any state that opts in, the second that they opt in, their agencies then are eligible to sign up with AT&T under the FirstNet plan and start to get devices and start to get service. And that's why this double-edged sword really isn't so much, because service chiefs are used to making these kinds of decisions, and they'll just compare them on their merits and make those decisions. And agencies don't have to sign up with FirstNet. However, by today, 27 states have opted in already. By the end of December, the governors have to make a decision. If the governor makes no decision, it's an automatic opt-in. And some governors are probably going to take that as a safe move. FirstNet is also, we have our headquarters in Reston, Virginia, but we've also built an innovation and test lab in Boulder, Colorado, to test all the devices and all the apps and everything that might run on our network to make sure that they're going to work. It's a really cool setup for assuring quality of service. We did a conference this year, an international conference, and at least 17 countries are looking at dedicated public safety broadband. Nobody's built out yet. We've gone from, we thought we were going to finish about third or fourth in that, but with the speed up, we figure we're going to be going right in there with the UK and Korea. And so here are some of my understandings of where some of the other countries that are here or participating and at the sort of head of the line are. In the UK, UK was one of the first to employ Tetra as a nationwide network as its narrowband system. It is already committed to replacing that with the emergency services network, a broadband network, and there have been some delays in moving ahead, but they expect to transition to that by 2020 or so. Their network is going to be a partially commercial and partially public entity too, as we understand it. In Canada, Canada has followed the United States very closely. All the meeting venues I'm in for public safety communications is always somebody from Canada there. So they've been following very closely. And they've chosen to adopt the same 20 megahertz that we have in 700 so that we'll be totally compatible across the border. They are moving carefully. They've just taken $3 million to do a planning process. They've done some piloting already, but they want to do more pilots and have involve public safety and some decision making about how they're going to go forward and how they're going to govern. They're trying to decide whether it's going to be a dedicated public safety broadband network, something shared public safety and commercial, or it's going to be purely commercial with public safety buying space in a dedicated manner of some sort. Australia has been pretty satisfied with its own communication system, let me just put it that way. Although in Australia, as was explained to us, the expectations of public safety are changing, and there is a desire to have greater situational awareness and greater capability to send data. They, however, are not going to be mimicking our 700 system. Some of that their network has already been auctioned off. They're looking at the 800 megahertz band at this point for deployment of a future public safety mobile broadband network. And their planning process is scheduled to be completed hopefully by the end of 2017. Then we'll know better where Australia is headed. And I mentioned Korea simply because they are right up there with the UK in implementing, and now the United States with implementing. Their SafeNet system is going to be LTE, which is what our network is, long-term evolution network, and we expect to see them coming along, completing their phase 3 by mid-2019. So they're moving speedily along. And then, there are 13 or so other countries that are also in the list. The key clearly to me about the future success of all these networks are going to be the apps that ride on them. That's what is going to make or break them. And I'm very, very confident that we're going to enjoy some incredible applications going forward. Things like connecting the Internet of Things, whether they're automatic crash notification in cars with our ambulances, with our radios, connecting health monitors with our dispatchers directly so that we can monitor patients as we're going out. We can control the health monitoring system, electronic health records, drones, telemedicine, and the like. And let me give you some more specific examples. Wouldn't it be neat if your smartphone or your tablet had some representation of your response area like this, something that has all of the resources in it, from helicopters in the upper left-hand corner to your own truck's inventory and mechanical status in the lower left-hand corner, to the hospitals and other services that you depend on, represented on that smartphone. So when you walked on duty, you just look at it and you have instant information about whether the helicopters are up or down, whether the trauma center is taking patients or not taking patients. If you have questions about anything on there, you just click on an icon, drill down, get more information. And instead of getting on duty and having to do all this informal networking to figure out all these things or making phone calls, it's there, and 5 minutes later you're ready, because most of us are out on the road 5 minutes later or 10 minutes or 15. We don't have an hour and a half to call the hospitals and see what their status is and so forth. Wouldn't it be cool if for a car crash, automatic crash notification would send automatically through a network without hitting any operators, no manhandling or woman handling or any handling in between, and go land on your smartphone in your area because there's a car that crashed in your response zone. And to be told not only where it is, what kind of car exactly that it is, what kind of damage it sustained, whether there was a rollover, seatbelts were used, airbags went off, etc., but calculate the probability of an injury in that vehicle given the physics of the crash. And you can make decisions in advance of that crash, like the helicopter will automatically have a crew and be turned on at 50% probability, and at 75% it launches. Same thing with extrication crews. They will go if there's more than a 1-in-1 chance of there being an injury in that car. And other decisions as well on resources automatically dispatched. And wouldn't it be cool if on the way to the scene that extrication crew could, because they now know the model, make, and year of the car, could bring up on their screen a how to cut this car apart without getting killed manual. Those exist now. It's getting them into somebody's hands on the way to the scene that's the problem. And wouldn't it be cool if you rolled out of your ambulance garage, instead of wondering where you're going, what resources are and are not available, to have on the screen everybody's status, because everybody's been notified of that crash who might have anything to do with that crash, and you know how ready they are, and whether they'll be at the scene when you are, or after you are, or before you are. And in the lower right-hand corner, not only whether you have control of the streetlights ahead of you, but, and the technology exists for this, it needs to be commercialized better than it has been, whether the cars in front of you know you're coming or not, and can signal back that they know or don't know that you're coming. And on the way to the scene, wouldn't it be cool if a drone could go out to that car crash, fly over, and see if there are any patients crawling off into the woods to be hidden from you, or if there's anything gaseous coming out of the car or liquid coming out of the car that you've got to avoid and maybe approach the car from a different direction. Wouldn't that be cool? When you get to the scene, instead of taking 6 to 10 minutes to make sure the scene is safe, approach the first patient in the first car, get a general visual, start to do some hands-on, maybe take some vital signs, further your assessment, write down some information, communicate that out to everybody else coming on the scene, like the helicopter or whomever, or if you're going to consult with a physician, getting that physician, getting the information to them. Wouldn't it be cool if instead you hopped out of the ambulance, hit your video camera on your hat or your head or your body, and took a shot of the scene, and then as you're approaching, took a shot of the patient, and sent that off to patient database number 1, and turned on your throat mic and started dictating your findings on the car and then on the patient in little bits and pieces, but it's there. And then grabbed a USB dongle off the patient and put it in your smartphone and got their health history, or connected with a health information exchange and downloaded it and put that into patient database number 3. And hooked up a multi-vital sign monitor on the patient and had that flowing in real time to patient database number 4. It might look like something like this.
Okay, start record. We have a passenger truck, what appears to be one driver. Vehicle is on wheels, moderate damage to front, appears to have been in frontal collision. Stop record. Excuse me, sir, can you hear me? Excuse me, sir, can you hear me? Okay, I have a positive radial pulse and I have an unconscious patient. Start record. We have what appears to be a large laceration to the right forehead and right face, bleeding down the neck onto the chest area. No obvious major deformity to the chest, abdomen, or lower extremities. Sir, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you open your eyes? Okay. Patient's responsive to pain only, does not answer questions. We're going to be transmitting vital signs right now. Okay, I have a medical history tag, and I'm going to submit it for transmission. Okay. Medical history being transmitted now. Okay, let's move on to the next page.
Yes, that was a St. Christopher medal. Yes, it was a simulation. Yes, that was Chris Montero's paramedic from Eagle County, Colorado. She learned that process with one rehearsal, and then she did that with a little bobble. It just worked into her assessment plan. And the big thing about that is 4 patient databases were populated and available for the hospital, for incoming air medical, for whoever had authorization and need to know about the condition of that patient in 60 seconds, not 6 minutes or 10 minutes. So what other technologies can we imagine? Well, telemedicine is the big one. Pictures and good quality picture, video from the back of the ambulance or the scene to the doctor in the hospital or whoever you're going to be consulting with, if anybody. And, you know, I think that this is going to be more of a rural application than an urban because, quite frankly, in the United States, our paramedics in urban areas are the kings and queens of the first 45 minutes. They are the best. They're the ones that can do it the best. They don't need somebody looking or helping necessarily. But in a rural area where you may have a basic life support practitioner who only does 30 runs a year or 40 runs a year, or in a rural area for a community paramedic who's out and is not trained as a physician's assistant in primary care, wouldn't it be nice to be able to boot up a doctor, a virtual physician, primary care physician, who has seen the color that the patient's turning now, which that practitioner's never seen, and be able to consult and come up with a care plan, either treating in place, going to a clinic, or going to the hospital. Particularly if you're a basic life support provider on a 2-hour transport with a supposedly stable patient who crashes 45 minutes in. Wouldn't it be nice? And talk about some of the devices that this would unlock for us. Again, in a rural area with perhaps a lesser licensed, lesser experienced provider, it's not uncommon, particularly in the day of airbags and seatbelts, to have a horribly crashed car and an ambiguously injured patient. And to have the providers on the scene default to, let's call the helicopter and get them to the trauma center, because it doesn't look bad, but we just don't know. We don't know if they're bleeding internally. We don't know. Wouldn't it be nice if they would be able instead to tie all the good vital signs they're seeing together with a picture of what is going on the inside? Taking a portable ultrasound device and being taught to put the wand in the 4 quadrants of the abdomen, or have a portable ultrasound device that has a light that can be triggered from the hospital end, which shows them where to place it, and then they place it and do what they're told to do. Either way, the person interpreting it is remote. And in that sense, instead of a patient going to the trauma center by default and walking out 2 hours later with a $30,000 bill for helicopter and trauma center, they go to the local the hospital and get worked up where they've been given information by the person interpreting that ultrasound. Today we have half a dozen or so telestroke programs going on in the United States where there's a head CT in the back of an ambulance. And the problem with that is, it's nice, you can go out and do that kind of diagnosis in the field and then get the patient to the right type of center for the right type of need. But the problem is you have to have a clinician in the back who can interpret that image, because Sending it today on commercial wireless is very undependable. You get a part of the way through sending the image, and suddenly the data rate drops, or the call drops, or something drops, and it doesn't get to the center in time. Wouldn't it be nice if you had endless bandwidth and you could just do that and put the clinician in a center where they could be looking at a number of different problems going on at the same time? I was going to talk about other drone uses, but somebody, Kurt, took my video, so I'm not going to be doing that one. But Neil showed me left. Look at the Dubai motorbike with cops. Notice there is no cop on this motorbike. It is a drone. Until they put somebody on the thing, and I don't know that I'd want to be that person on that thing, but it's pretty cool. So thank you, Kurt. I got to show an even cooler drone. There actually, since in the time that I've been doing public safety communications, periodically I've done expert panels and focus groups on what people in EMS think are our priorities for technology in the field, so that I could then go back to my venues and know what kind of communications infrastructure would be needed to support that technology. Since about 2012, the National Public Safety Telecommunications Council, we established an EMS committee on that, which is, has been actually serving that purpose, so I don't have to. And they've got a document on, it's nipstick.org, npstc.org, and you can go to the EMS committee there and look for applications for broadband. And they're applications that 120 people ground through and decided would be good applications for EMS via broadband. And in 2013 that was published. We're now going through and updating that list. It is there, as is a paper on the impact of FirstNet on rural EMS. If you want to know more about FirstNet, you can go to firstnet.gov, which is FirstNet's own site, and it's just everything about FirstNet, what's going on this week, where we're having meetings next week, that we're at EMS World this week, et cetera. Or firstnet.com, which is AT&T's site, which has some high-level access to portals for each state and what the plans generally are for coverage in the state, and, for instance, what devices are now able to be bought through FirstNet, AT&T, smartphones and tablets and dongles and modems and et cetera, and what they cost. Actually, the cost is on the state-specific, because it's state-by-state, portal, which not everybody has access to right now, but they will soon. And to stay connected with FirstNet, we are on social media everywhere, as you can see there. And if you want to know, in every state there's a single point of contact, a SPOC. If you go to firstnet.gov/consultation and look at SPOC, you'll find out who the single point of contact is in your state. Go to them and ask them to ask them to let you see the state portal so you can see exactly what the coverage is, exactly what the pricing will be, et cetera, or what their plan is for revealing that. And that's it. Thank you very much. I'll grab that. And I'm out of here. Do you want this? Turn it off.
Kevin had to be different, so we have to turn the computers around. Okay, we were fortunate to have someone from Amsterdam at our meeting earlier this year in the UK. And we've got Leon now from the Netherlands to talk to us about the Netherlands Ambulance Service. Thank you.
Okay. Please go to the beginning. This is not the start.
There we go.
Well, thank you. Okay. Well, you've seen the presentation, so I'm all ready. Good afternoon, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. It's always a challenge to be the last speaker after 2 extensive days, but I do my best to make it an engaging and informative presentation. Normally, I do presentations not by reading, but because of English is not my native language, today I will. Excuse me for that. My name is Leon Triepels, and I'm working for Ambulancezorg Limburg Noord, which is an ambulance service in Limburg, a province in the Netherlands. Today I will speak about my research on how to improve the response time for our ambulances and the overall patient care in the region. Our ambulance service operates in a region that lies in the south of the Netherlands, and to give you a better impression, I will show you where it is. And as you can see, the Netherlands and Limburg is just a stamp of the regions that you compared to work, the most of you. This is an image of our region, and as you can see, we are bordered by 2 countries. In the east, Germany, and in the west, by Belgium. In other words, we share more borders with other countries than the regions with our own country. This is an important factor to keep in consideration in terms of coverage and response time. This namely means that most of the time we cannot rely on our neighbors for support. The reason for this is laws, regulations, liabilities, etc., etc. Therefore, even though this is a densely populated region, we have difficulties providing coverage for the region. Besides this factor, we have another factor which causes us difficulty. This is called the river de Maas. And this river divides our region in 2 parts. And the major cities, there and there, are both on the east side of the river. In addition to these geographical issues, we have 12,500 civil assistants in our regions, and they might offer a partial solution to the problem. Oh, sorry. This is one of our most famous residents, our Max Verstappen. Luckily for our patients, he has become a Formula 1 driver and not one of our ambulance drivers. The legal response... in the Netherlands, approximately 20,000 people are yearly affected by cardiac arrest. And this calculates back to Limburg for about 900 cases a year. The legal response time in the Netherlands for an ambulance is 15 minutes. In other words, we need to be on site within 15 minutes of every emergency call that we receive. The national criterion is that we achieve this in 95% of all the emergency calls. Ambulancezorg Limburg Noord scores at this moment 92%. On average, it takes 3 minutes to register the call and to send out of the ambulance. Our average response time is 9 minutes, 16 seconds. So I don't have to explain you that in the case of a cardiac arrest, this time is critical for the patient. At the moment the ambulance starts its engine, the resuscitation should be started, so when the ambulance is arriving on the site, we're actually already too late. Next to this, it's important to know that 78.7% in the Netherlands of all the cardiac arrests happen at home. To limit the time between the emergency call and the start of the resuscitation, we started a program that called Heart for Limburg in 2008. For this program, we needed civil assistance and a system to alert these civil assistants. AEDs are also a very welcome addition, but not a must. And with every possible CPR emergency call, the ambulance service also alarm the civil assistance by a short message or an app. And thanks to the program, now 9 years later, almost all resuscitations are started within 3 minutes by these civilian assistants, and in most cases an AED is also brought on site. And we think that when we approve this project, the survival of the patients could rise up to 30 or 40%. And maybe it's good to explain you what a civil assistant is. These are volunteers, these are civilians that just live at home and they're not a part of the emergency system. I'll give you an example from how the system works. You see here a screenshot from a neighborhood. Oops, it's going a bit too fast. And now it isn't working. The battery also had 2 long days. Yes. No. This is here you see the text message and the app. You see that next time again the regent. No. It's not going well. Yes. This is a city in our region, and you see here in the middle the victim, and around in the circle you see all the civilians that are registered in the alarm system. What we do in the system is take a line between the victim, and this is a 6-minute radius. So every civilian that's in that 6-minute radius will get an alarm by the SMS or the app. The system sends out 2 messages. One message sends citizen assistance directly to the victim, so they can start CPR. The other message sends the civil assistance to an AED locations in the neighborhood, and afterwards to the victim. These people are not alarmed because they are too far away. And these people are close by and they go to the victim. The current survival rate of cardiac arrest in Limburg is 27.4%. These numbers come from a scientific research conducted by the University of Maastricht. In total, we have at this moment, like I told, 12,500 civil assistants subscribed in the system. They're all trained according to the European Resuscitation Council guidelines, and annually they follow a refresh course. In addition, over 1,000 AEDs are registered, which are 24/7 available, and they are owned by individuals, companies, and municipalities. That means that for our regions, with the province Limburg, with over just 1 million residents, more than 1% of all the residents is subscribed in the system. Like I told, the survival rate was 27.4% at this moment. Some of people might think, what life expectancy can you really have after a resuscitation? Well, of all the survivors, 92% is going back to home, and most of them go back to work. 4% go to a rehabilitation center, and only 4% end up in a nursing home. These are also numbers that come from scientific research. The research also showed that survivors give their quality of life a 7.7, 75% of them, on a scale to 10. And this is even 0.2 points higher than the average quality that people rate their lives before cardiac arrest. Of course, this is all relative, since these survivors have been given a second chance at life. But it means that we in Limburg, on an annual basis, save over 243 lives at the moment, and the numbers are rising. What more can we do with our civil assistants? About this, I did research last year. I have investigated how to use civil assistants in cases other than cardiac arrest. For example, a disturbance in the airway, breathing, or circulation. We want to start a pilot. And there are a few aspects that we need to take in consideration if we want to do this. The first aspect is the physical and social safety of the civil assistants. For example, civil assistants have no uniform and therefore receive less respect of bystanders. The second aspect that we need to take into consideration is the uprise of the social media. The filming of bystanders, etc. And how the assistance of unidentified civilians can be misinterpreted by the media, and how this can influence the reputations of the ambulance service. Therefore, we start only with incidents at patients' home. In the current situation, the support of civilian assistance in the Netherlands is not taken into the consideration in the total performance of the ambulance services. Therefore, civil assistants cannot contribute directly to the 95% national criterion, but they can contribute to the safety and quality of patient care. Yesterday I spoke about this with some colleagues here, and unfortunately, insurance companies are mostly euro, pound, or dollar driven, and less quality driven. For this pilot, I think it's wise to start off with civilian assistants that have experience in care sector or other emergency services. Take, for example, firefighters. Our intention is to start the pilot in May 2018. For so far, the first part of my presentation. And now I want to show you a movie in which we show how we work with the system.
Lang zal die leven, lang zal die leven, lang zal die leven en de gloria, en de gloria, en de gloria. Hiep, 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 hoera! Hiep, 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 hoera! Hiep, 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 hoera!
Gefeliciteerd, papa.
Dankjewel, schat.
Ja, man, wordt het niet tijd dat je de taart gaat aansnijden? Ja, want je hebt me al 60 jaar laten wachten.
Maken jullie wat vrij?
Ik had je 50 gegeven.
Herman, niet over de taart heen hoesten.
Ik ga even een pilletje pakken.
Ja, dat is de leeftijd, hè. Je moet weten wat ik allemaal moet slikken.
Frans. Ga je even naar papa kijken? Pap? 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 Mama! Mama! Papa! Pap! Pap! Herman! Rustig, rustig. Het is zijn hart, dat weet ik zeker. Maar de helft van de week had hij er ook al last van. Hans, ga jij je 1 en 2 alsjeblieft.
Ja.
En zeg dat we moeten opschieten. Ja?
Ja.
4, 5, 7, 8.
Meldkamer ambulancezorg, in welke plaats moet u?
In Maastricht.
Maastricht. En het adres?
Ekenstraat nummer 1.
Wat is er aan de hand, meneer?
Mijn vader ligt op de grond en hij ademt niet.
Geen ademhaling, hij is niet meer aanspreekbaar, hè, zegt u? Nee. Oké, kunt u reanimeren?
Ja, mijn tante is hem op de borst aan het drukken en en reanimeren, ja, klopt.
Laat het doorgaan. Ik stuur met spoed de politie, de ambulance en de burgerhulpverlening naar u toe.
Ja, er komt hulp aan. Ja. Beneden de deur. Beneden.
Op het moment dat iemand een hartstilstand krijgt, wordt meestal meteen 112 gebeld. Dan komt er een telefoontje binnen op de meldkamer in Maastricht. Daar zitten onze centralisten die dat telefoontje aannemen en die alarmeren bij zo'n signaal meteen ons ambulanceteam.
120, u bent A1 vertrokken voor een reanimatie op de Eikenstraat nummer 1 in Maastricht.
Op dat moment gaan ze naar de plek waar iemand verblijft. De praktijk leert dat niet meteen op iedere straathoek een ambulance staat. Dus het duurt een aantal minuten eer de ambulanceteams ter plekke zijn of eer politie ter plekke is.
LV 2341. LV 2341 op.
2341.
Rijdt u naar Maastricht, Eikenstraat 1 en op een reanimatie. U heeft een toestemming.
Ja, ontvangen, wij gaan ter plaatse.
Op het moment dat er dus een mens in nood is, dan zijn we erbij om zo snel mogelijk ter plekke te zijn. En dat betekent iedere seconde telt. Dus zo snel als mogelijk om te kunnen starten met de reanimatie.
Ik denk dat iedereen weet dat in de eerste paar minuten van cruciaal levensbelang zijn, dat daar wordt ingegrepen. Dat kunnen wij als ambulancedienst niet waarmaken, maar dat kan die burger wel. Burgerhulpverleners, dat zijn mensen die wonen in de directe nabijheid van het slachtoffer. Zij kunnen in de eerste instantie direct worden opgeroepen en ingezet worden om die eerste basale levensreddende handelingen te verrichten. Dat lukt ons niet als ambulancedienst. Ja, wij kunnen niet binnen 2 minuten ter plaatse zijn. We hebben gewoon een bepaalde tijd nodig om ter plekke te komen. En juist dat gedeelte, dat hiaat wat er ontstaat, daar kunnen die burgerhulpverleners goed op inspringen. Zij gaan bij de patiënt naar binnen, doen de eerste handelingen en in afwachting van de ambulancedienst die komt.
Ik ben burgerhulpverlener geworden omdat ik weet hoe belangrijk het is dat er snel hulp verleend wordt bij iemand die een hartstilstand heeft. En door burgerhulpverlener te zijn, kan ik iets betekenen voor mijn medemens en dan kan ik de overlevingskans bij een hartstilstand vergroten.
Kom, zie je.
Hallo, blijf jij wachten op de hulpdiensten?
Ja.
23, 24, 25,
Hallo, we zijn burgerhulpverleners.
27, 28.
Die bijdrage van die burgerhulpverlener is essentieel. Tegenwoordig wordt er vaak binnen 3 minuten een goede reanimatie opgestart. Dat betekent dat het slachtoffer een veel betere kans heeft om en te overleven, maar ook dat de restschade veel minder is. De bloedsomloop die blijft intact, de hersenen blijven zuurstof krijgen en op die manier heeft dat slachtoffer een veel grotere kans.
Bezig met evalueren van hartritme. Iedereen afstand houden. Druk op de knipperende knop. Schok toegediend. Reanimatie beginnen.
Twee, 3,
Allee, ja, man.
5,
Kom op, pap.
15, 16, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 27, 28, 29.
Kijk, de rol van de burgerhulpverlener is dat hij in feite een professional is op het moment dat een burger hulp nodig heeft. En op het moment dat daar reanimatie noodzakelijk is, dan maakt het niet uit of het de burgerhulpverlener, de politie, de brandweer of de ambulancedienst er als eerste is. Wie er is, kan handelen en wie er is, kan een leven redden.
Reanimatie beginnen.
We zijn burgerhulpverlener. Ik heb net de eerste schok toegediend.
Oké, we zijn goed bezig.
Ik denk dat het superbelangrijk is dat er over en weer begrip komt dat we professionals zijn, dat we ons vak beheersen. Een burgerhulpverlener beheerst het vak van reanimatie. Die weet wat hem te doen staat. En die relatie is dus daarom belangrijk, dat je daar geen twijfel over hoeft te hebben. In die zin zijn we in feite collega's.
Ambulance, zuster.
Meneer overmaal geworden, 1 keer ruggenjack, 1 keer hier.
Oké, goed zo. Gaan we eventjes door. Mijn collega neemt het zo over van jullie.
Ja, ik neem het van je over.
Samenwerking is heel belangrijk. Het is een hele stressvolle situatie. En als burgerhulpverlener ben je als eerste aanwezig. Hoor je vaak als eerste het verhaal wat er gebeurd is. Je bent een belangrijke spil naar de professional toe om voor hun duidelijk te krijgen van wat er precies gebeurd is.
Geen output, we hebben defibrilleerbaar ritme. Iedereen los.
En daarbij kun je hun werk gewoon een stuk lichter maken door daar waar nodig is handjes hulp te bieden, maar ook je uit de voeten te maken op het moment dat je niet meer nodig bent.
Nu gaan we los.
Ja, doe de cliënt maar eerst eventjes weg.
Ja. Dan klaar voor intubatie.
Oké. Uit de post op. Dan. We hebben een 60-jarige man gecollabeerd en in een reanimatiesetting terechtgekomen door de AED ter plaatse 1 keer gedefibrilleerd. Toen wij aankwamen 2 keer VF gezien, gedefibrilleerd. En jij neemt nu de circulatie tot je rekening. Oké, ga ik doen. Wil jij de ladderwagen bestellen bij de brandweer? In orde. Oké, uit de puls stop. Voetpulsaties, ik zie een sinusritme, dumpen de energie. Zo hebben we output. Hij heeft hartslag.
Hart voor Limburg is een project waar een aantal partijen in Limburg samenwerken met een aantal overlevenden ten gevolge van een circulatiestilstand om dat zo hoog mogelijk te laten zijn in Limburg.
Kun jij me even helpen?
Nou, dat wil men bereiken door een goede samenwerking op te zetten tussen de professionals, dus de ambulancedienst, de politie, de brandweer, maar ook om die burger daar op een hele goede manier voor in te schakelen. En daar zijn we in 2008 mee gestart. Op dat moment was de overlevingskans om en nabij de 10%, zelfs iets minder. We zijn nu bijna 10 jaar verder en we zien nou vanuit wetenschappelijk onderzoek dat de overlevingskans in Limburg 27% is. Dat is 3,4% hoger dan het landelijk gemiddelde. Vertaal je dat nou aantal overlevenden, zijn dat 36 overlevenden op jaarbasis.
In principe is de brandweer een allround hulpverlener, die zowel bij brand als bij ongevallen ter plaatse komt. En als bij zo'n incident reanimatie in de orde is, krijgt dat altijd de hoogste prioriteit. Een brandweerman kan reanimeren, maar kan ook het werk eromheen doen. Dus zorgen voor een goede en veilige afvoer van de patiënt, meehelpen met ambulancepersoneel, de omgeving veiligstellen. Het kan ook zijn dat we assisteren om de patiënt op een zo veilige mogelijke en rustig mogelijke manier in een ambulance te krijgen of bijvoorbeeld af te hijsen, een tilassistentie bijvoorbeeld.
Met de andere hulpdiensten is samenwerking het toverwoord. Kijk, wat gewoon heel erg mooi is, en ik denk dat we daar vreselijk trots op kunnen zijn in Limburg, dat wij een grote groep vrijwilligers hebben die opgeleid zijn, die professional zijn, als het gaat over hulpverlening en reanimatie. En dat het een super aanvulling is om samen met de hulpdiensten ervoor te zorgen dat wie er het eerst is, de goede hulp kan verlenen.
Iemand hier meehelpen?
Vroeger kwam de ambulancedienst ter plaatse, stonden de omstanders om het slachtoffer heen en gingen wij starten met onze behandeling. Vaak waren al 5, 6, 7 minuten verloren voordat wij ter plaatse waren en soms nog wel langer. Nu, heden ten dagen, beginnen burgerhulpverleners direct met reanimeren. Ze beginnen direct de patiënt te behandelen. En dat hiaat van die paar minuten is van cruciaal levensbelang voor die patiënt.
Gaat het? Heel veel succes, mevrouw.
Hey, collega burgerhulpverleners, super. Dankjewel voor jullie inzet. Zonder jullie was het nooit zo soepel gelopen. Hopelijk tot de volgende keer met dan een andere situatie. Bedankt.
In 2013, Ambulancezorg Limburg Noord was the founder of the foundation Wens in Beweging, or Wish in Motion. The kick-off took place in Maastricht at the Vrijthof. That is the home base of no one less than André Rieu. You see him here, his son. André is the proud ambassador of the foundation, and he's playing in Las Vegas coming Friday. So if you have time over. The foundation helps fulfill the last wishes of the severely and terminally ill people were unable to travel without an assistant or special transport. This foundation has no subvention, and its funding comes from beneficiaries and donations. All the people that participate in the foundations are volunteers. They all have to sign a code of conduct, and a VOG is compulsory. This is a declaration from the Minister of Justice to prove that they have no criminal record. And now it's not going forward. The stars won't go away. The amount of rights is rising, and this year the number will go over the 100. For example, you see a 92-year-old woman who wanted to watch for the last time Rembrandt's famous painting in the Night Watch in the Rijksmuseum. They've been to Norway with a man who wanted to see his newborn grandchild before he died, and they went with someone to a dolphin show. And here you see the special interior from the child's car. This former ambulance is specially furnished for the transport of children. I hope I have given you a short acquaintance with another example of community paramedicine in the Netherlands. Already, the civil assistance is indispensable in the care by cardiac arrest, and we are now starting to expand this. Besides, you have seen how volunteers accomplish over 100 rides that in the past most likely were executed by the regular ambulance service, or the patient wouldn't be able anymore to fulfill their last wish. Thank you very much for your attention. Yes.
Kevin? All right, we've got some question and answer time now.
Hi, I'm Tom Zink from St. Louis and the city of St. Louis. This is for Kevin. How does one get a platform or a software program or whatever tested for FirstNet compatibility and potential future application?
Right now, I believe, I haven't looked at this week, but on the face page of the FirstNet.org, or gov, I'm sorry, FirstNet.gov website, there should be a contact for developers, and that should get you right where you need to get. If for some reason that doesn't work, see me. I will get you to where you need to get. But we are right now we are testing a variety of different apps, a variety of different devices. And they want more. We're hungry.
This is also for you, Kevin. The devices, what's the change? Is there going to be a significant amount of change in device like we already have? Mobile gateways, will we need new cards, the smartphones, that sort of thing?
It really should be transparent. We're looking at devices that can be obviously purchased through FirstNet that are FirstNet devices, but they're going to be what you're used to seeing. They're going to be they're going to be iPhones, they're going to be Androids, they're going to be tablets, they're going to be, nothing will be any different, nor the modems in the cars or trucks. The one thing that we are now exploring and have been, and I'm not quite sure where we are today, but is bring your own device. And that has got to be a part of our fabric. so that we have, particularly for volunteer participants, firefighters, volunteer EMTs, that can use one device, legitimately use the FirstNet network for their work and the rest of their device for non-work. We're figuring that one out. Right now with the changeover with the AT&T changeover, many devices that are out there, certainly AT&T devices, will be able to fly onto the FirstNet network. Others may require SIM chips. If they've got an LTE device, but it has a different chip, you're going to need to get a chip change out. That said, the devices that we carry today are capable of multi-band use. And so having multiple bands in your phones will be very doable. And I've now gotten to the end of my technological savvy.
This is also for Kevin. How soon after the governor signs and says, yes, we're going to do this, and how is notification to those agencies that would be eligible to participate in the FirstNet?
I am told that there are already firefighters using the network in Virginia. I'm not positive, I haven't seen it myself, but that's what I've been told. But right now, once the governor, and we've had, I don't know when the first approval happened, but it happened probably a month or so ago. Virginia was one of the first out to opt in. And AT&T went to work right away to start marketing to all of the public safety agencies in the state. They had some things to figure out first, and they're still figuring some things out. But, you know, as I said, this is not that complicated. We've been buying these things for a long time, and while this has, you know, a lot of bells and whistles that are going to be good for us, it's really the same kind of decision making and the same kind of implementing of it. It's just that AT&T's got to figure out how to do this all nationwide, but they've already done that, so they've got it figured out too. So I would say, once the state opts in, I would be very surprised if within a month there weren't initial contacts.
My question's for Leon in this case. The application that announces to the civil assistant, is that a commercially available application, or is that something you created in Limburg?
We created by ourselves. There are now, at this moment, 17 regions in the Netherlands of the 24. They together they made a special foundation, and they own the system. That means not that it's not available for other people, for other countries. So if you're interested, please contact me, and we'll see what the possibilities are. We don't have to make money of it. Okay.
You're all tired. Well, we're 2/3 of the way done. Are you glad you came? All right. We'll see you bright and early at 8 in the morning. Breakfast will be out at 7:30.